There we go. We're on. We're
Thank
on the
you.
air.
Mike, would you please, for the record now, state your name
Michael D. Boylen,
and what does the middle name stand for?
David,
Okay. And Boylen is spelled B-O-Y-L-E-N?
L-E-N, yes.
And you are a veteran of the United States Armed Forces?
Yes, I am.
What's your address?
It's 475, 450 East Street, Mount Sterling, Illinois. 62353.
What's your telephone number?
Area code 217-773-2674.
And do you have an email address?
Yes, M. Boylen at fsb-tc.com.
And where were you born?
Quincy, Illinois.
And what's your birthday?
12/27/1948.
Do you like to state race or ethnicity?
It doesn't matter. I mean,
And what branch of service
U.S.
did
Army.
you serve? And were you a commissioned officer, enlisted soldier, drafted?
I was drafted
Okay. And what were your service dates?
July 10th, 1968 to July 10th, 1970.
And what was the highest rank you achieved in the United States Army?
Sergeant E5.
And what unit or division did you serve in?
My combat unit was 9th Infantry Division.
And what operation or theater of war did you serve in?
In Vietnam.
And where in Vietnam did you serve?
Mostly in the Mekong Delta area.
And did you engage in specific battles or campaigns during that deployment in the Mekong Delta?
Yes, I did.
Can you name those or describe them?
No, I cannot name them. I don't remember them. But then we were on patrol all the time. I was in the infantry. I was a ground pounder. So
I'm going to use that ground pounder as a way of further describing the service that you provided. I take it that that means that you were a foot soldier.
yes,
Would that have been part of the Tet offensive?
I was there during the Tet of '69. There was two Tets, 68, and then also one in 1969 as well.
You were involved in both of those?
No, just the one in 1969.
And what medals or service awards did you obtain during your service in the United States Army?
Bronze Star for valor, Purple Heart, and 2 Army Accommodation Medals for valor. Now then, there are other ribbons that correspond with your service in Vietnam and things of that nature.
So did you obtain the Vietnam campaign
Correct.
ribbon? Army Good Conduct
Yes.
Medal,
I have a list someplace, if I can lay my hands on it. National First Time Records. That's a complete list there.
I think that they have the capacity to scan these documents, so that one will be
That's my daughter-in-law.
scanned in.
Yeah, Rachel,
Yes.
she's a lot of fun.
In fact, she's got one of my other daughter-in-laws helping her today.
Yes, yeah. Just
Leanne.
waiting. We get a kick out of Rachel.
Would you like to describe any special duties, highlights, or achievements that marked your service during the campaign in Vietnam?
We were deployed and part of the Mobile Riverine Force, it was called, and whereby we were assigned with the Navy to patrol the Mekong Delta area by either boat or helicopter. I was on approximately 50 some air missions through helicopters. I was also on a numerous boat patrols up and down the river, Mekong Delta River and its tributaries. Basically what we would do, we would be set out and go out into the rice paddies and the jungles and stuff of that area, search for the Viet Cong to try to engage them and root them out from that part of the country. And we would be out 2 to 3 days at a time. Then generally we would get a day's break where we could come back and shower, change clothes, things of that nature, and then prepare to go back out again.
So just out of curiosity, when you're marching through a rice paddy for 2 days, where would you sleep?
On the ground, on dikes,
Because it's primarily a floodplain,
correct.
so
The river, the tides dictated the height of the water every day there. And you had to have canals that you would cross, that you would have mud of a morning, and by evening, if the tide changed, you could have to swim it.
in order to avoid being stranded.
Well, that was the only way across. You didn't have boats or anything of that nature when we were patrolling, actually.
Is there a limit to where the boat could go in terms of the depth of
Yes.
these areas?
There was. And it was really surprising how shallow the water could be that they could still traverse in. But, and they would, you've probably seen the boats that landed in Normandy and dropped the men off. That's the type of boats that we were, assault patrol boats that we rode on.
Those are boats that open at one end.
Correct. Floating coffins, we called them.
My dad was a officer candidate in World War II, and those were the boats he was expected to be deployed upon in the invasion of Japan,
Hmm.
and they were called LSTs.
Right, that's the correct name of them.
But he told me that stood for Large Stationary Target.
That's one of the other names of many that it was called.
So did you come under fire while you were in those
At
vessels?
times, yes. My squad was very lucky. We never had any casualties while in the boat. The other squads in my company, platoon, had major casualties.
How large was your squad?
It varied, and a lot of that depended upon the number of casualties that we did have. But it would normally be 10 to 12 guys in our squad.
And were you the commander of that squad?
In the latter part of my tour of duty, I was a squad commander, and then later at the end, I was platoon sergeant, yes.
How large was the platoon?
Normally, it would be 30 to 40 men. We were lucky to keep 20, 25 men in the field.
And is that because of either casualty, illness, or
Casualties,
other absence?
casualties, yes.
And was there a commanding officer, commissioned officer for your unit?
Each platoon would have a lieutenant, sometimes second lieutenant, who would be in charge. And then there would be a company commander who would be over all of the company, the 4 platoons.
Just out of curiosity, how frequently did the officers accompany you on your
The
missions?
lieutenants would accompany us on all missions. Company commander, not as often,
When
because
you-
we didn't go in a company unit. Normally, we were in platoons.
When you were deployed on a patrol, uh, were there other patrol units close by to you?
We had no idea where they were located at specifically. The size of Vietnam, Mekong Delta area, was fairly small when you consider what vast area we have here in the country. But so knowing how close they were, I don't know.
Is it dense jungle or is it open paddies?
A lot of it is paddies, but then there were certain areas where you would have banana groves, you would have just jungle areas that you would traverse through.
Were any of those areas held by the Viet Cong?
They were infiltrated by the Viet Cong all over. You might clean them out today and they'd be back tomorrow. Because we would sweep an area, but you couldn't stay there and maintain it.
Did you have reliable intelligence given to you on your level as to where the infiltrators were most likely to be?
No. Not, you would have some intelligence, know that they were spotted in a certain area a day or 2 days prior to that, but it was never what you might call reliable as it is today.
How could you tell?
You couldn't. They could be your friend during the daytime, and during the night, they would don they didn't even change clothes. I shouldn't say don, but then they would change personalities and become the Viet Cong. I'll tell you a quick story. We used to have boys, young men, that when we would come back into camp that would wash our clothes and meet us at the gates, and stuff, and carry your guns and things of that nature back in for us, and we thought the world of them. We're talking 6, 8, 10-year-old kids. And they were allowed to do that, and we would give them sea rations in exchange for their work that they helped us with and stuff. Till one day we caught them stealing, and they were taking grenades and ammunition. And in turn, we assume, we don't know this for sure, but that was part of the booby traps that were set up out there in the boonies for us to trip and later maybe injure ourselves.
Were you ever aware that these younger infiltrators were acting as privateers or under any kind of duress or some other motivation?
We don't know. We think it was probably family oriented, that they were their fathers may have been part of the Viet Cong.
But in terms of reliable intelligence about who
No.
they were and what their motivations were, you would not have been informed of that?
No. I have pictures of just of our little helpers in here that
Did you take those pictures yourself, Mike?
yes, I did.
What kind of camera did you use?
And this Carol, do you remember I couldn't tell you, it was a small camera.
Like an Instamatic?
Mm-hmm. This here was our little boys. There's one of them carrying one of the guy's helmet and the rifle, as we were walking back into our base camp. I lost a lot of pictures because when I got shot, then I was transferred to Japan for recovery, and my gear never did catch up with me.
Can we scan these photographs from your album?
Sure. You can see there's some that are mixed in there because after I left Vietnam, I was stationed in Hawaii, Schofield Barracks, for the final few months of my tour. But
Was that somewhat easier duty than slogging through a rice paddy?
definitely, I even had my wife over there, so it was extremely better.
The water looks very muddy there.
Oh yes.
How was your ability to maintain personal hygiene, drink safe water, that type of thing?
At the base camp, they had a distiller, which would clean the water and supply you with fairly good water. But you would be out in the rice paddies and jungles and stuff. And there was numerous times where we would go to some of the, I'll call them hooches because that's all they were, was thatched huts that the natives lived in, and they would catch rainwater. And there was a number of times that we would fill up our canteens there to continue on.
How did your fellow unit members, how did they get along in such an unusual and remote place?
We all adjusted quickly. You had to. You had to, I guess, adjust to the point that you became I'm trying to think of the word I want to use, but then you talked about hygiene and things of that nature. You didn't think anything about hygiene. You'll see there pictures where I wore fatigue pants, a pair of boots, flak jacket, and a helmet part of the time, and the rest of the time, no shirts, no socks, no underwear, because you were wet all the time.
Did you serve during the monsoon season?
Yes, part of the monsoon season, and that was the latter part, or the middle of it's when I got shot, was airlifted out.
Well, let's kind of go to that. There's a couple of questions here. First of all, you were never taken prisoner of war.
No,
But you did receive service-related injuries, correct? Can you describe those to us?
I was shot by a sniper as we were preparing for a night stay out in the boonies, and we had a perimeter set up, and a sniper off in the distance fired into our location. I was very lucky that he was as good a shot as he was because he only shot me in the arm.
And what type of injury did you sustain to your arm?
A bullet went right straight through it, and luckily it missed the bone. And they had to debride it and stuff, of course. And I was out of commission for about 30 days, or a little longer, I guess. And
Were you treated in the field by a medic?
we had a medic there that gave me morphine, and then I went to a MASH unit where they operated, which was airlifted out, in other words. And then from then, I traveled on to 2 other hospitals, ending up in Tokyo for rehab over there.
How long were you in rehab?
Less than 30 days.
And then back to your unit?
I went back to Nam, yes.
And I understand that the Purple Heart is awarded to a soldier that is wounded in the course of battle or during his deployment. The Bronze Star is an award given for valor. Was that an award that was associated with your wounding, or was that through another
That was
action?
another action.
Can you describe that, or do you care to?
When I went back to Vietnam after recovering from this, I was assigned to what we called the Tiger Squad. And we were on call 24 hours a day. And helicopters, the little small Goshes, would go out and try to spot the enemy out in the field. And if they did, they would call for us, our Tiger Squad, and we would fly out in helicopters to try and intercept them. And I was squad leader at that time, and we had encountered approximately 6 Viet Cong one day, and we captured all of them and took them back and recovered quite a bit of cache of weapons plus pertinent documentation that they had on their body and stuff that we was able to use, or the intelligence corps was able to use. These are the citations that if you would like to see them, Chris, that
Yes.
show the Purple Heart and the Bronze Star and such.
So this action in which you intercepted the Viet Cong combatants occurred only, these were when you were awarded. So one was awarded the 24th of May, 1969, and the other was awarded in August. But the Bronze Star was awarded after you returned to service following your rehabilitation.
Yes. Mhm. I always think this is interesting. This is the orders. And that was when I received my Purple Heart. And my name's down there about 3/4 of the way. But that's by date. The men that received Purple Hearts on those individual days. And you'll notice there from about 17th of May through the 21st or something like that. I'm not sure the exact dates on there. But there are those page and a half there's on the back too. That's how many men were awarded Purple Hearts in that short period of time.
So would that indicate that there were periods of time when there was less action and then very
would have-
intense amount of
right.
action?
Right, you would have, I'll call it quiet times, but then you never wanted to let your guard down because that's when they would strike, when you least expected it.
Now, since you were there for extended periods of time, did you
That's-
discern a pattern to the enemy activity that, corresponded with?
No, because they were never in it's not conventional warfare, never was. It was a guerrilla type warfare. And they would be in smaller units, 5, 6 men would normally be the most you would ever make contact with out there. Even when we were ambushed, because that would happen every once in a while, you would be ambushed and they would hit and run, we call it. Shoot, try to disrupt us, at times cause casualties, or cause you to have to call in for evacs to take the wounded away, things that disrupt our scheduled programming.
So while serving in the Mekong Delta, you did not really have contact with a uniformed,
No.
organized
Ours was-
military force.
Ours was the Viet Cong that we dealt with 90% of the time, and probably more than that. But
So it's not the Army of the Republic of North Vietnam.
correct, they operated north of Saigon, in fact, I think.
Did you have, during your stay in Vietnam, did you have interaction with U.S. soldiers that were stationed in other parts of Vietnam?
No, I did not. I was never out of the South or out of the Delta area.
And you're showing me now the Department of the Army Commendation Medal. Can you describe the circumstances under which you achieved that award?
That was on an ambush we had in a prior, well, it was dated earlier there, but whereby we did lose 4 guys that day, and they were KIAs in the field. I best be honest with you, that was one day I tried to climb in my helmet because I thought we were all going to lose it.
And was that a firefight? I'm sorry.
We were ambushed, but then it turned into a 2.5 hour ordeal. They had us pinned down in the rice paddies, and when you've got a dike that's only about 2 foot tall, you try to get down underneath that, it's hard.
Not too many places to hide.
No.
Are there any other experiences or circumstances of your experience in the Mekong Delta that you'd like to share or you think would help enlighten uh, future generations about what actually happened during the Vietnam conflict?
I'd like to point out the fact that a lot of us men that were there um, felt we were doing the right thing and really thought we had a purpose in being there. In later years, I don't doubt that, but then I have questions about it. But for the most part, almost every man to himself was there with the idea of trying to make the world better.
Given that it was very hard to identify who the enemy was, did you have interaction with the people of Vietnam and have a chance to get acquainted with them during your deployment?
Mhm. If I might, there's a couple of pictures in there. One of them is once in a great while, and I think it was twice, we did medevacs out in the field, whereby our medics would go out to an area where they had farmers, is what it was, that lived in small groups of 3 or 4 families, like. And the medics would take medicine out there to treat the kids or whatever it might be. And in those times, well, this is a picture there. It shows me holding one of the baby, and and all the kids, man, we'd take candy or whatever we had, out there to treat them and stuff. But they really seemed to appreciate what we did for them, and I'll never forget that.
Were you able to converse with them? Did they speak English or?
No, they did not speak English. Now then, over the time, you would acquire some knowledge of a few words, Vietnamese language and stuff to try and converse with them, but then not really to speak their language, or they didn't speak our language either.
Well, if I can offer my own editorial comment, you look like a kid from Brown County, Illinois, a long way from home. What about the other members of your unit? Were they from different areas of the United States?
All over. 4 years ago, I had the honor of being contacted by a lady in Texas. Kitty Ward is her name, and to come to the point as quick as possible, she was trying to locate our unit so that we could have a reunion. Because I was very fortunate. I came back to Brown County and feel that I left everything over there. And I had a lot of support. Excuse me. I don't talk about this much.
That's okay. Take your time. We got plenty of time. And if you don't want to talk about it, that's fine too.
Now the part I'm trying to, I don't know, just keep bringing back some memories. But anyway, I left it at home, left it over there in Vietnam, and I came back to Brown County, and I made some tremendous friends over there. Pictures there show them and stuff. But I lost track of them, and they lost track of me, of course. And this lady got us all together, and we've had 2 reunions and brought us back together, which has been very good.
Well, obviously have been meaningful for you. Did you find that some of the gentlemen that you served with didn't have as easy a transition back?
Very much. No, and I really regret that. And the fact that I feel like I could have been an influence on some of them if I would have stayed in contact with them. I've thought of that.
In some of these photographs, one particular, it looks like there are Vietnamese soldiers, some of them with,
They're not soldiers. They're Chuhois is what they were called. They were our guides. I call them guides, but they were our lifesaver.
well, it looks like a couple of them were also given awards for merit or
Mm-hmm.
valor.
Nui was, and I can't tell you his last name, but he was our Chuhoi that went with us every place we went, and we respected him, and he became close friends with all of us over here, over there. But he would be able to determine 90% of the time if there were booby traps, because we lost a considerable amount of men, whether killed or just seriously wounded, to booby traps.
And did he just have an
He had
innate
inside
talent
knowledge.
for?
He was a former Viet Cong. All Chuhois had been Viet Congs in the past and had come back over to the South Vietnamese Army.
Were you ever suspicious of their allegiance to?
None, never. Nope. And the reason being, they were on a hit list that as soon as we left, majority of them were shot. We know that for a fact.
And do you have any knowledge of whether those particular gentlemen in those pictures made it?
No, we don't.
Have you ever been back to Vietnam since
No,
that
have
time?
not. Have not had a desire to go.
That was going to be my next question.
I've told this story to my wife and different family members a lot of times. I would love to have seen that country prior to war, because I think it was a beautiful country with their churches and their lifestyle and things. They're very neat people with all they had to work with. You know, it surprises you. But when you're modest and have very meager things, you have to be, and they were.
And most of the people who lived in the Mekong Delta were either fishermen or rice farmers.
Yeah, farmers, majority of them, rice farmers.
Did you grow up on a farm?
Yes. Mhm.
Not that kind of farm,
No.
no.
Nope, not at all.
Okay.
I'll show you something else,
Yeah,
if I might.
sure. Jost, whatever you find in there that's interesting, because I think we should probably scan a lot of the photographs in there.
This is a list from my company, and it dates from actually July, I think, of 1967 through August 1969. And this is just my company. And those are all the men that lost their lives while in that approximately 2-year span. Now then, a lot of people don't realize, unless they've been to Washington, D.C. and see the wall, how many men, 58,000 total, died during that time period. And we were just one company.
I've been there. It's a very humbling experience.
It is. Carol and I have had the honor years ago of going out there.
So did you know any of these gentlemen who
Yes.
you've highlighted?
All those that I highlighted, I served with.
And the ones who have a yellow check mark by them, what is the significance of the purple check mark?
They were the ones killed on a specific day that I remember very well, and then we're closer friends.
So this list, and I'm just going to estimate that maybe it has 40 names or so on it.
Mhm.
Numbers of these gentlemen you knew and served with, and all of them lost their lives in
In
Vietnam,
in Mekong Delta
in the Mekong Delta during that
time period.
2-year period that you were there.
Now, that doesn't count people that were wounded, came back without arms or legs or things. And I have friends that are that way too. But then that's just the ones that were KIA over there.
And since that time, have you had contact with any of their families or?
Not of those, no.
And when you went to the Vietnam Memorial, did you search out their names?
Yes.
Now, in your particular unit, just out of curiosity, did it start out with the same guys and it was pretty much the same guys all the way through? I mean, in terms of, obviously, some people were wounded.
Yeah,
I think
we-
you said that no one was killed, but
Yeah. We would have new recruits probably once a month, and but you would have people rotating out as well that had served their 12 months tour of duty and
so
stuff.
not everybody came at the same time. So
Correct.
you would be on a somewhat of a rotation.
Yes.
And just out of curiosity, did you have a little good-natured ribbing or a little initiation service for the new guys?
Once in a while, yeah, there could be some of that, but most of the time it was serious.
Yeah,
So it wasn't too much of that.
not too much jocularity
No.
out there in the.
Now that there's pictures in there that you saw where we had girls, and no,
I didn't want to go over there.
U.S.
Is that your picture though in there as a youngster
Yeah.
standing by the door?
the USO.
We were
You're
getting
just as
ready
pretty as those USO girls.
We were getting ready to come home from Hawaii then.
Oh, okay. So you were happy to see them, weren't you?
But the USO sent out a troop, and that was the first time we'd seen an American, other than our GI buddies there for 4 or 5 months. And so, you know, they didn't perform or anything like that. They just flew in on a helicopter and visited with us for a little bit and stuff. So we just thought that was part of heaven.
That
coming
was
back
plenty
to
of
us.
entertainment for you, wasn't it?
Yes.
And so you were in such a remote area that actual organized entertainment was not really a
No.
likely
When Bob
thing.
Hope came for the show, we drew cards to see who got to go, and there was only like 3 out of the platoon got to go and stuff, and that was fine.
Well, where did that take place?
That took place in Saigon.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Dong Tam was the name of the base camp, main base camp where that took place.
Was that your main base
Yes.
camp? And where was that located?
It was in the Mekong Delta, but again, I don't know the exact miles, but I'm going to say 20 miles from where our base camp was at.
Big place.
Yes, yes. No, they had an airport and everything there.
Okay, what about the necessity, or let's just call them not the necessity, but the finer things of life like candy and cigarettes and beer and things? Where could you get those?
We didn't have anything out there that you could go to the store and buy where we were at, but we would get a box once a week that had cigarettes, candy, chewing gum, things of that nature. We would get a beer ration of 2 beers once a week. That's if we were in camp.
How old were you when you were drafted?
I was 19.
And had you had beer before that?
Yes. I'm part of the generation where they had that opportunity to drink after 18.
Yeah, okay. That's
But
good.
not, and, you know, it wouldn't, I shouldn't say there was never any liquor out there because you could get rice wine from the natives.
How was that?
It was very wicked. It
Probably
was-
pretty strong.
It was a strong alcohol.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
So now, just and I'm not trying to harp, but I just want to make sure I get everything in that we can in the short time we have together. In this Tiger Squad that you were talking about, was that also in the Mekong Delta?
Yes.
But it was a different type of deployment than the search
Prior, right.
missions.
We were a follow-up squad to try and come in and capture any Viet Cong that they
Okay,
did
was that
see.
a little more elite type duty for guys that had a little experience?
Right. We had been there 6 months or more.
And when you captured these enemy combatants, had they engaged you in fire, or were you able to surprise them? How did?
We were able to surprise them. And at the time, I was a squad leader, like I said, and there was two, I'll call it bunkers, that they were in. And I sent part of the squad to one, and I stayed at the other one. And we surprised them enough that they came out and gave up because we were right there at their door. They had no other choice, or else we could have blown it up.
And
Yes.
would you have done that if?
Yes,
So this was kind of a win-win situation for both sides, correct?
correct.
And were they in fear of being inhumanely treated, or do they recognize that you would, if they came peacefully, treat them with?
I don't know whether they were in fear of that. I think they were in fear of being captured,
Yeah.
But then I'm not saying that they was in fear of humane treatment.
Well,
Um,
after you took them into captivity, obviously you didn't keep them for very long. You turned them over to somebody. Where did they go after that?
They had I guess a prisoner of war, I'll call it, camp there, part of the dog tam. It was a more or less a jail off area where they had fenced in area and stuff.
And these, and I'll call them enemy combatants that you
Mhm.
captured, they, like, similar to who you're searching for, they were guerrilla
Correct,
Viet Cong.
Yes.
And they weren't much of a position to deny that that's who they
Oh, no.
were.
No, they were carrying AK-47s and
Yeah.
45 pistols. Plus they had a large, well, it was a kind of an expanded type folder that carried a lot of maps and things of that nature in it
Okay.
as well that we captured.
Is there anything else that, and like I say, I'm not trying to pry, but you're telling us a lot of information. Is there anything else you wanted to relate for posterity?
I was proud of this here. I was asked in 2009 to give a Veterans Day speech, and I wrote a speech here. And it in it there, I, of course, talked about Veterans Day, but then I talked about my journey through the service and stuff and how it impacted me and things. I think I'm proud of that.
Where did you deliver this?
It was
address?
at the Mousetrolling Knights of Columbus Hall.
Oh,
That's where I delivered it to the veterans. Part of the school kids were there, and American Legion, things of that nature.
well, we'll definitely have this scanned and made a part of the record as well.
There's what a full platoon looks like sitting over there on our day off. I don't have the original picture. A friend of mine had that I was with. And
During the non-monsoon part of the season, I take it would be hot there.
oh yeah.
Did it ever get cold?
No, not at all down there. No. We
What kind of food did you eat on a regular basis?
anything. Sea rations.
Did
We
you,
would get a hot meal when we came in about every 3 days.
What about the food that the natives eat? Did you ever try what
Yes.
they ate? How'd you like that?
Mama San can cook.
It was good.
Yes.
A lot of fish,
They had poultry,
poultry.
ducks, geese, and chickens, plus pork. They had had hogs that they would fatten up out there and stuff too. But then we had been out one day for an extended period of time. It was over 3 days, and we had had nothing but sea rations. And me and 2 other guys went up to one of the Mama San's hooches, and she had a whole flock of chickens. And it was getting towards evening, and we asked her as politely as we could to fix us chicken and rice, and she did. Now they do it different than we do over here, but it tasted good, and we did not mind.
Do they have seasonings that they put in it?
No, very little seasoning, maybe a little salt, that's it. No other seasonings, but they boiled it, and then it was boiled all together. But we were hungry and we weren't even sure we was going to get seized that night, and we didn't. But then we always thought that was kind of neat.
Yeah. What else would you like to share with us, Mike? I think we've got a lot of information, but we're here to get as much as we can.
That's Jimmy Stewart. He came out to see us. I'm standing there talking to him, but then the whole company was there. He came out on a day when we were down, on stand down. But anyway,
Was that at the big base, or was that?
no, that's out at our.
Did you
Tiger's
have
Lair.
too many celebrities that came out to see you?
That was only the second one.
Yeah, and Jimmy Stewart's a veteran, I think.
He was, and his son got killed over there now.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And that was something I didn't know at the time till later on years. But that's one of the reasons that he came over to,
So he felt like he had a connection with
yeah.
with you guys. And that's you in the foreground talking to Jimmy Stewart?
Mhm.
What were you talking to him about?
It's been 45 years ago. I don't remember.
Now, we've got 2 photocopied pictures. Do you have the original prints anywhere?
Neither one, no, not
Okay.
of those. Like I said, a buddy of mine, I lost mine because I had probably 2 more albums, at least, of pictures that I had developed over there.
Well, both of these look like they might have even been taken by an official photographer, possibly.
No, I blowed them up. That one on your right, my Spence was his name. He had that picture, and I don't. After he gave it to me, the photocopy, I told him I don't remember even having that picture taken.
Oh, really?
I'd forgotten about it.
Well,
That we
there's
gathered.
who's the gentleman in the white in the background?
He's a Vietnamese man that came in and did haircuts.
Oh, okay. It's rather jauntily
Yeah.
attired.
He was.
And you've got some arrows and things. Do those have?
That's
Easy
Spence
business.
right there in the middle, that first arrow in the middle.
Mhm.
And Roland is one there next to him. He passed away just a little over a year ago. He lived in Florida. He was a friend of mine. I'm in the second row from the left, second one. The guy, Benji, the guy sitting right next to me is my best buddy from over there. He lives in just east of Indianapolis, Indiana right now.
Okay, so you were in a very stressful environment, and you said most of the time you were pretty much dead serious about what you were doing. But was there any times that any of
Oh,
these
yeah.
guys just went absolutely wacko and just did something crazy, or
No,
something?
but you guys had different ways of relieving stress. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I never did smoke pot in my life. I didn't believe it, and I never smoked cigarettes till I was over there. But then there were some guys that if they get a day off, we had a pot bunker where some of the boys would go over there and they smoked grass. When I got into Vietnam, I was waiting for a helicopter to come and take me and another friend of mine right here. You see his picture, but then Spence or Brian Swisher, and we were standing on the edge of the tarmac waiting for the helicopter to pick us up, take us out there to our camp. And anyway, this little kid came running up there to us, had a round paper sack, and I mean it was pretty good size. $5 GI, $5 GI. And I said to Brian, what the hell's he got? Had no idea. He had it full of grass, and you could buy it for $5 back then. So it was plentiful if you wanted it.
And I take it that out in the
Oh, booze.
Delta where you were, there was a certain informality in the
Very,
command structure.
very. A lot of things were overlooked.
Yeah.
As long as it didn't interfere real bad with your duty, they didn't enforce it.
And as a sergeant, did you have any disciplinary problems keeping your guys safe and sound?
No, I wouldn't say so. No. You would learn the antics of some guys, how they maneuvered and things of that nature, and you would try to anticipate if you were going into a certain area, what to tell them and things, but no, not disciplinary type things.
And you went in when you were, I think you said 19,
Yes,
were there for 2 years altogether.
correct.
So you kind of went in a young, almost a boy, but came out pretty much a adult with a lot of responsibilities.
Oh, yeah.
So what did you go on to do after you came back? You said you had a good and stable place to come back to.
Right.
And
Family, had a job. I started farming with my father, and we farmed together. And then 10 years after that, I continued to farm, but I took a job inside Mount Sterling at the Farmer State Bank. I've been there for 33 years.
what do you do at Farmer State Bank?
I'm vice president, loan officer.
Okay, you kind of keep an eye on
Mhm.
farmers, make sure that they've got plenty of credit to
That's right.
get them through the next year.
Mhm.
And what's your wife's name?
Carol.
And how long have you been married to Cheryl?
Carol.
Carol.
uh,
Sorry about that,
40
Carol.
45, it would be 46 next
So
year.
you guys got married just about as soon as you got back, right?
No,
No?
2 weeks before I went over.
Okay, yeah, my arithmetic's bad, because that would have been 1968.
8 is when we were married.
Okay,
I had 2 weeks leave between the AIT and being deployed overseas, and we got married during that time frame. We had dated for 5 years or 4 years, whatever, all the way through high school before that. So
what's Carol's maiden name?
Volk,
Volk.
correct.
There was a very nice school sister of Notre Dame at St. Peter's. Is that your sister?
Joanne, she's my third cousin.
Oh, okay.
Joanne, yeah.
Yeah, she's in the same order as my sister, the School
Yeah.
Sisters of Notre Dame. So, and I know she's from Mount Sterling. So you came back and were able to prosper, and you have kids?
We have 3 sons and a daughter, and 9 grandkids.
Wow. Wow. Okay. What else about your experience as a veteran would you like to share with us before we turn off this video device?
I've talked more than I have for a long time. I
Well,
don't know.
we've learned a lot. We've learned a lot.
I don't know of anything. There were, friendships that were made that I didn't follow up on them till later here in life, but then it was it's quite a relationship that you do develop. Trust is a big thing.
Well, that would be a great way to end our interview if you've feel like you've given a
Yes.
good archival
I hope so.
recounting of your experiences as a veteran. Of course, we're very appreciative that you would agree to do this and that you served our country so honorably. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this off.